Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about Imperial Guard regiments. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions for topics, please comment down below. And if you enjoy our content, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's because of them that we can do this. Link in the description if you guys want to support us. It's just $1 a month. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Maccabean Janissaries. The Maccabian Janissaries are a zealot and elite Imperial Guard regiment, united not only by the worship of the Emperor of mankind, but also a fanatical devotion to the Imperial Saint Drusus. They are so faithful in their patron saint that they march into battle wearing the ubiquitous silvered mask and the image of Drusus. This Imperial Guard regiment is also one of the Imperium's most well-trained and disciplined forces. They literally battle shoulder to shoulder in serried ranks, unleashing volley after volley of accurate fire into the enemy. It is their faith that unites and strengthens this military force, rather than common heritage like so many of the other elite regiments. The history of this enigmatic force dates back to the Angevin Crusade, a military campaign started by the powerful praetor Angevin. Angevin's goal was to pacify the then Calix expanse and eradicate all Xeno and heretical influence in that region. The Imperium saw incredible success at the start of the Crusade, and eventually the war would pay off by forming the Calixis sector, but Angevin would never see the conclusion of his crusade. First he went mad under mysterious circumstances, and as the Imperial advance slowly waned, Angevin's subordinate, Drusus, rallied the factionalized Imperial forces and assaulted the chaos-corrupted Xenos, known as the Uvoth. Thanks to his strategic mind, Drusus was successful against the Xenos, but he needed more men in order to fully eradicate them. Drusus was widely acclaimed as a savior, but many powerful figures in the Crusade viewed him as a dangerous warmonger, a rival, and a would-be usurper. His rising acclaim was seen as a threat to the status quo of the campaign, and according to some sources, betrayal by agents of his rivals amongst Angevin's generals were quickly being schemed. Drusus was eventually attacked by a deadly assassin while rallying his depleted forces on the world of Maccabeus Quintus, and was seemingly slain, but in a display of a true miracle. As the killing blow was struck, the powers of the Emperor obliterated the assassin and spared Drusus's life. It is said that after 10 days and nights in shadow, Drusus returned to his warriors, wielding the Emperor's light within him. Pronounced a living saint, a newly established Drusian sect of the imperial cult began to flourish, and imperial banners flocked to his command. One by one his enemies fell, and when Angevin died, Drusus was appointed Lord General Militant and the sole leader that would continue the Angevin Crusade. From the ashes of Drusus's conquest, the Calixis sector was born. After his death and nearly a century of deliberation, the General Synod of Terra conferred imperial sainthood to Drusus, whose cult and dogma had already flourished within the Calixis sector and had become a dominant factor in the local Calixian sect of the imperial cult. To this day, Maccabeus Quintus, the planet on which Drusus was resurrected, is the site of pilgrimage for the faithful across the Calixis sector and is the heart of the Drusian cult within the sector's ecclesiarchy. The world's harsh and unforgiving landscape is walked by countless pilgrims every year, many of whom spend the remainder of their lives there, giving themselves over to the devotion of the Emperor. The planet itself is prone to terrible famines and droughts which leave their mark even on the strongest inhabitants. Yet Maccabeus Quintus is a blessed world, blessed not because of the resources it possesses, which are few, or because of the climate, which is harsh, but because of the faith that grows in abundance. Unlike many shrine worlds, Maccabeus Quintus has a significant military tradition all its own. Following in the footsteps of their patron, discipline and endurance are regarded as the greatest of virtues, and to defend or expand the Imperium in battle is regarded as the most pious form of worship. With the sheer number of pilgrims arriving on-world each year, a considerable population of devoted pilgrims exists on Maccabeus Quintus, which in turn provides an ample and diverse supply of potential candidates to the Maccabean militia, the world's planetary defense force, the finest of which are chosen to join the Maccabian Janissaries. To date, none have refused this honor, for all are driven by faith and the spirit of the pilgrimage. And to become a Janissary is to embark upon a pilgrimage of a different sort, carrying the Emperor's wrath to the darkest and farthest places. It is absolutely remarkable just how far many of these pilgrims have traveled to get to this bitterly cold and arid planet. There are whole families composed of many generations, some of which were born during the journey, that settle on Maccabeus Quintus. In their hearts is an incredible pious force that gives them an almost indomitable will to endure whatever the galaxy can throw at them. The survivability of these travelers could even compete with the endurance of a space marine neophyte. Many have persevered through warp travel, religious persecution, and war to get to the exact location the Emperor of Mankind performed his miracle. While the majority of the pilgrims do not travel to Maccabeus Quintus in order to join the militia, there are a few highly devoted travelers whose intentions are solely to join the Planetary Defense Force. Their hope is that they are worthy of joining the ranks of the Maccabian Janissaries and continue their pilgrimage of holy war. The reasons many of these people decide to make the long pilgrimage is steeped in personal faith, but unlike many imperial citizens that seek the God Emperor's blessing, those that choose to make the perilous journey do so to earn salvation through military service. Some might be looking for penance after cowardly deeds, such as running away from a fight rather than facing glorious death in the name of the Emperor. Others might be plagued with minor mutations that prevent them from military service on their own homeworlds. Highborns of the Imperium that have no hopes of inheriting a significant position within their adepta might seek an alternative to a future of a menial existence. In each of these pilgrims' hearts is a drive to better their situation through their own devotion, and like Saint Drusus, become living conduits of the Emperor's light. Once they become part of the Maccabian Janissaries, these soldiers have few ties to the world they are named for, or the ailment that brought them here in the first place, and tend to volunteer for deployment that places them at the forefront, pushing deep into enemy territory, viewing every engagement as another step along their militant pilgrimage. While it is rare for Imperial Guardsmen ever to return to their homeworld, Janissaries never do so. They press on ever more distant war zones and die fighting on countless distant worlds. Even those who are demobilized at the campaign's end will often find themselves at other pilgrim trails in other parts of the Imperium, guarding the faithful from the predations of the heretic and the alien. It is common for these abandoned Janissary regiments to ally themselves to inquisitors, pious rogue traders, or ministorum priests that seek an effective military force. One of the regiment's most honored military engagements occurred in what became known as the Spinward Front. During the early days of strife within the Periphery subsector, 12 regiments of the Maccabian Janissary were duty-bound to accompany missionaries voyaging there to ensure that the population remained loyal and faithful. Stationed within the turbulent subsector when the Orc invasion came, the Maccabian Janissaries were already on the front lines, fending off numerous Dark Eldar raids across the Periphery, and would then form the core of the Imperial Guard force that was mustered to defend the region. The subsequent betrayal of the Imperium by Duke Severus XIII of Kolth, when he proceeded to create the Severan Dominate and seceded from the Emperor's dominion, was taken by the Janissary regiments as a particular affront against their patron Saint Drusus, inspiring great levels of fervor in the Maccabians. Almost immediately, Cardinal Hester and Fortis began calling for a war of faith to cleanse the periphery of the apostate and the heretic, so that it could be repopulated by the true and pure. While their zeal was to be commended, more practical minds won out between the Margin Crusade's increased demands and the war efforts already present in the periphery. The military capabilities of the Calixtus sector were already stretched to the breaking point, and little more could be drawn from the Segmentum Obscurus reserves or the neighboring sectors. Nonetheless, Maccabeus Quintus continued to recruit soldiers and raise regiments, whipping the pilgrims who journeyed to the Ecclesiarchy Shrine World into a frenzy of devotion and purgation, and doubling the number of regiments mustered, pledging every new regiment to the Spinward Front. At present, the Maccabian Janissaries form the fourth largest contingent of Calixtus-born Imperial Guardsmen in the periphery, overshadowed only by large musters from the populous hive worlds of Scintilia, Malify, and Bront. And given the perpetual influx of new pilgrims to Maccabeus Quintus, it seems unlikely that the recruit rate will dwindle anytime soon. And those were 40 facts on the Maccabian Janissaries. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thank our patrons on Patreon. It's their $1 contribution that really helps out the channel. If you guys want to support us, link is down in the description. If you think $1 a month is too much, simply by liking, commenting, and sharing, it really helps out the channel. So thank you ahead of time if you do that. What's cool about the Maccabian Janissaries is that they're very similar to the French Foreign Legion in that they are fighting not so much because they were born in a particular place, but because they are fighting for a specific cause. The French Foreign Legion is built or made up of foreigners fighting either to get citizenship or because they have patriotism for France or just because they want to become mercenaries for an elite force. And it's similar to the Janissaries in that the twist is not patriotism, it's religious fervor. So these guys are fully following in the footsteps of the imperial saint, and they want to fight for a foreign planet because of their faith for what that planet stands for. And there was a particular regiment or military force in our own history in the Ottoman Empire, the Janissaries, which the name is derived from. And the big thing about them is that their soldiers could rise through the ranks. Just like the imperial saint Drusus, or before he was an imperial saint, he rose through the ranks to become the second leader of the Angevin Crusade. So it's kind of like that whole connection of your skills are what promotes you and not so much of where you were born. Whereas with other Imperial Guard regiments, it seems like it is so tied to not so much skills, but just who you are. If you are highborn, then you are placed in a high place or a high position even in the Imperial Guard. But I really enjoyed reading this lore. Thank you for Valletta Petra, who made the suggestion. If you guys have more suggestions, comment down below. It might take us a while to create a video for you, but we will try to get to everybody. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Always used to put my freedom first.